Today, more price hikes coming. A major producer for household goods saying costs are increasing faster than expected, but it'll only charge more for certain categories. Johnson & Johnson reports earnings. It beat profit expectations but missed revenue forecasts. How did its COVID-19 vaccine do? And a robo-taxi company testing self-driving cars in Seattle. Why pick a city with famously bad weather? That and much more coming up on NTD Business. Good evening and welcome to NTD Business. I'm Evelyn Lee in for Paul today. Southwest says it won't put unvaccinated workers who are waiting on exemptions on unpaid leave. Southwest is a federal contractor, so its employees have to be vaccinated by December 8th, unless they have medical or religious reasons. CNBC reports the airline told its employees that if they asked for an exemption but haven't gotten approved by the deadline, they can keep working, wearing masks and following social distancing rules until somebody reviews their requests. Southwest employees will have until November 24th to either get vaccinated or request an exemption. And Procter & Gamble says it will raise prices on a number of household goods. The company says the cost of raw materials and freight has increased faster than anticipated. Procter & Gamble makes a range of products, including brands like Tide and Charmin. The new price hikes are limited to certain categories. The company will begin to charge more for oral care and beauty products as well as razors. It plans to monitor consumer reaction to the increases. French food group Danone also expects to raise prices in a number of countries, including the U.S. The company makes Activia yogurt and Evian bottled water. Strained global supply chains have led to a surge in raw material prices. Inflation is also at its highest level in years. And now to the supply chain shortage. It's getting so bad, even children's school lunches are being impacted. NTD's Phil Zhou has the story.
The supply chain crisis is affecting all sectors across America, including now school lunches.
There's just a lot of the student favorites are no longer available.
Stephanie Dillard is the nutrition director of the Enterprise School District in Alabama, serving 7,000 students.
We're struggling finding trays to serve the students on. We're struggling to find chicken products. We struggle to find this morning. We got our outs list. Pop-Tarts are shorted.
That includes plastic forks. How are kids going to eat without utensils?
We will go to grocery stores. We will go to Sam's Club. We'll go to Walmart. We'll buy everything we have to so we can serve our students.
The public school district in Denver says they're struggling to find enough milk to serve every student. It tells Business Insider they're prioritizing milk for breakfast and recommending that parents give kids reusable bottles. U.S. schools serve 500 million lunches per month during the 2018 school year. Even last year, during the pandemic, over 300 million lunches were served each month. President Biden made a vow to fix the supply chain issue last week.
Never again should our country and our economy be unable to make critical products we need because we don't have access to materials to make that product.
Dillard and her team in Alabama are staying positive, doing whatever they can.
We could just get people back to work in America. That would help tremendously, especially from the manufacturers. We desperately need truck drivers to bring in the groceries.
Phil Zhou, NTD News.
And one proposal in the Democrats' $3.5 trillion spending bill is designed to save money. And that's by reducing the price the government pays for prescription drugs. Will it work? NTD's Michael Corder has the story.
Democrats have several healthcare proposals packed into their sweeping $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation plan, and one of them would actually save the government some money by capping the amount drug companies can charge Medicare for prescription drugs and offering those same prices to private plans.
From some perspectives, it sounds good. Price controls always do. But as we've found since the Roman Emperor Diocletian, price controls never work.
Doug Badger is a senior fellow of domestic policy studies at the Heritage Foundation. He says that plan would come with some trade-offs.
What happens is they will develop fewer new drugs with the result that some drugs, yes, will be cheaper, but other drugs that people might need will never be introduced into the marketplace.
Developing a new drug is a high-risk endeavor. Pharmaceutical companies spend more on research and development percentage-wise than any other industry. Most of their efforts end in failure, but when a new drug becomes a big hit, investors reap the rewards. Price caps fundamentally change that calculation for investors.
That capital will move elsewhere, and when you begin to strangle the R&D budgets of pharmaceutical companies, you're going to get fewer drugs developed.
Americans currently pay the highest price for new drugs in the developed world, essentially subsidizing the development of new drugs for everyone else. That's because other countries cap the price of the drugs, but sometimes companies refuse the offered price.
And what you find out is whereas Americans have access to virtually all of those new drugs, on average, European countries only have access to about 2/3 of those or less.
There are no easy solutions. Badger says Democrats don't have the votes from their own members to impose the price caps, and no other proposals have surfaced. Michael Corder, NTD News.
Stocks closed higher today with the biggest gains from the technology and healthcare sectors. The Dow gained 199 points or 0.6%. The S&P 500 added 33 points or 0.7%. And the Nasdaq rose 107 points, also 0.7%. The first Bitcoin Futures Exchange Traded Fund, or ETF, begins trading today. It sent Bitcoin to a 6-month high. It tracks Bitcoin futures, but not Bitcoin. The chair of the SEC, Gary Gensler, says that gives investors some level of protection since, unlike Bitcoin itself, Bitcoin futures are overseen by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. But he also says investors should understand it's still highly speculative. Bitcoin was at over $63,000 after the ETF listing. Johnson & Johnson's earnings are in, and they're mixed. They've missed projections in 2 out of 3 of their business units, but were over in their bottom line. NTD's Faye Quarter has more.
Johnson & Johnson sold $502 million worth of COVID vaccines, while beating analyst estimates on its bottom line. It had an adjusted EPS of $2.60, 11% higher than average estimates of $2.35. However, it missed on revenue with $23.34 billion, while Wall Street expected $23.72 billion. J&J's business is categorized into 3 units: consumer, pharmaceutical, and medical devices. Its pharmaceutical unit, which developed the vaccine, saw sales rise 13.8% year over year to $12.9 billion. Its consumer health unit saw sales rise 5.3% year over year.
Over-the-counter medicines saw strong growth of 18.2% globally due to share gains in the U.S., along with an increase of pediatric fever incidences and demand for vaccination symptom relief that drove increased sales of Tylenol and Motrin globally.
And its medical devices unit saw an 8% year-over-year increase. J&J raised its full-year earnings estimates from between $9.60 and $9.70 per share to between $9.77 and $9.82 per share. Faye Quarter, NTD News.
And Facebook has agreed to pay over $14 million to settle employment discrimination claims by the U.S. government. The penalty is based on a key immigration law that bars discrimination against workers because of their citizenship or immigration status. The U.S. government says Facebook refused to recruit or hire American workers for jobs and instead reserved those jobs for temporary visa holders. The DOJ's Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division says it's a historic civil penalty and the largest ever of its kind. Facebook says it believes it's met federal standards, but has agreed to end litigation in order to move forward. And it's Seattle that has been selected by Amazon Zoox to test its self-driving cars. Why did they choose Seattle? And how will this new technology affect the locals? NTD's Colin Frederickson has the details.
There are 2 reasons why Amazon has picked Seattle as its new testing ground for Zoox. The first is it could attract local engineering talent. The second is Seattle's famously bad weather.
Seattle provides a variety of frequent rain, inclement weather, different road network topology, geometry, and policy, and those provide interesting opportunities for our hardware, software, and AI teams.
In the past, autonomous vehicle systems were easily disrupted by rain and snow. Their ability to read road signs and markings could be impaired under these conditions. Through this testing, the company can see how water impacts the vehicle's sensors, including cameras and radar. Instead of deploying its electric robotaxis, Zoox will send specially equipped Toyota Highlanders into Seattle. These SUVs will be equipped with the company's sensors and self-driving software. With the rapid application and development of self-driving technology in public transportation, there are a number of use cases to consider. Global transportation expert Andy Taylor mentions the importance of safety, security, and the fare collection process. And he's also concerned about putting an extra vehicle on the road.
At the moment, we have increasing levels of congestion. Congestion in Baltimore, for example, is up to 135% of what it was pre-COVID. That levels of congestion are sort of crippling public transportation. They're really having a negative effect on the efficiency of the system.
Taylor says that autonomous vehicle users need to understand the impact, not just on the city, but also on the entire mobility ecosystem as a whole. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
Toyota is establishing a new company and building a new car battery plant in the U.S. It says it will be investing over $3 billion here through 2030. Plans are for the new plant to start production in 2025, and it's expected to create over 1,700 new jobs in the U.S. Toyota is betting big on electric vehicle batteries. Last month, it announced plans to spend $13.5 billion to develop batteries and its battery supply system. Toyota says the new company will initially focus on producing batteries for hybrid vehicles. It hasn't disclosed the location of the new plant yet. And today, the UK announced billions in investments in green technology, including a partnership with Microsoft's co-founder. NTD's Malcolm Hudson in London reports.
Speaking at the Global Investment Summit in London, Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates announced a £400 million partnership to boost green technologies. They said the aim is to bring down the cost of green tech to help countries achieve net zero emission targets by 2050.
We'll be funding these projects jointly next year. The UK's already got a number of applications coming in. We have lots of small companies that are inventing better technology for doing these things. So over the next 5-year period, we expect at least one of these technologies will be ready to scale. And over the next decade, that all of them will be.
Johnson noted a number of areas they wanted to focus on.
What we want to support is direct air capture, long-term battery life, jet zero, and green hydrogen. I think these are all technologies that have massive potential, but they're currently underinvested in by comparison with some others.
Direct air capture is technology that captures CO2 directly from the atmosphere. Jet zero is the goal of net zero emission aviation through sustainable fuels. And green hydrogen is a way to store energy from renewable sources.
Now, what government has to do is as far as we can, de-risk those investments, not just in the UK, but around the world. And that's going to be, I think that's going to be the secret of COP, to be absolutely frank, and for tackling climate change in the future.
At the summit, 12 of the UK's leading green innovators demonstrated their technology to international investors. The government said it has attracted nearly £10 billion to fund its green regeneration agenda. It estimates these investments will create 30,000 new jobs. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
Still to come, the FDA moves to make hearing aids available without a prescription. Why now? And what would it mean for people with hearing loss? And an app in the UK helps students find short jobs they can do between lectures. Which industry is benefiting the most? That and more after this short break.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented My Pillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled My Pillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or My Pillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
The final end. The end of mankind. The end of this wretched world. I came as a man of peace and the world bought it. Can you believe that? They even took the mark of the beast. Fools! Why did God even make human beings?
To glorify his name. But we were fools, and many will spend eternity in hell. May God have mercy on their souls.
But fools are fools are fools. Satan loves fools, and so do I.
People with hearing loss may soon be able to buy hearing aids without visiting a doctor. The FDA proposed a new rule today that would allow people to purchase the devices without a prescription, an exam, or a fitting. It comes after an executive order from President Biden called for increased competition and access to medical devices. The FDA says out of the 15% of adult Americans who have hearing loss, just 20% use an aid. The proposed rule also aims to make hearing aids more affordable by making them available at more retailers and online. The public can comment on the proposal for 90 days. Americans are complaining about the tech neck from all the screen time while working from home. And that's not the only reason the aesthetics industry has become more popular. A survey has found that the pandemic drove a lot of traffic to plastic surgeons. I went to the Northern Medical Center in New York to find out more. Pandemic stress has rattled our skin and bodies. One dermatologist says that while many like to think we've been at home taking care of ourselves, the truth is many fell apart a little bit. And now working from home is driving more demand for plastic surgery, especially because of more downtime and the possibility to discreetly recover at home. While many stay in the U.S. to do their procedures, quite a few people make a bigger effort to find a doctor they trust. South Korea is a plastic surgery capital, and even Americans travel all the way there to get their procedures done. The Northern Medical Center here in Middletown invited one of South Korea's top plastic surgeons today, and I'm here to ask him why that is. Before the pandemic, he had 4 to 5 American patients every week. He says it's because Korean plastic surgery is at the top-notch level.
They make good threads, and if done properly, it is very effective. And thread is, I think the lifting in that industry, I think it is getting better and better. So maybe one day you don't need a scar here to just don't do the whole thing.
He says that number is picking up again. Samir Bashi, a dermatologist, says that face, neck, and chin treatments are especially popular now. That includes sharpening jaw lines and resolving something called the tech neck. And Dr. Cha says non-surgical facelift technology is something patients should all keep an eye on. Not only are lasers making progress, but thread lifts are too. He says that minimally invasive procedure is especially promising.
We have wonderful doctors in Korea, and I think that's why a lot of people are talking about that. They have communities of which doctors are good. So they share those information, and that's why a lot of Americans come to Korea.
According to the Northern Medical Center in Middletown in New York, radio frequency is another non-invasive way to treat cheeks, neck, and jawline. Evelyn Lee, NTD News. And Walmart is joining the fray to kick off the holiday buying frenzy early. It plans to launch 3 sales in November marketed as Black Friday deals. Holiday discounts have historically been reserved for the Friday after Thanksgiving, known as Black Friday. Now, retailers are experimenting with spreading those deals over a longer period of time. Walmart is planning for each sale to become available on its website first and then hit stores 2 days later. It joins retailers like Best Buy, Target, and Amazon in marking down popular items well ahead of the holiday season. Walmart also says it is planning to close stores on Thanksgiving for the second year due to the pandemic. A second brokerage in 2 weeks is expecting Apple to sell fewer iPhones than expected, even with the holiday season quickly approaching. NTD's Phil Zhou has that story.
JPMorgan says Apple will sell fewer iPhones than expected this holiday season because of the chip shortage. The firm estimates $63 billion in sales for iPhones in the first quarter of 2022, a 4% yearly drop.
Apple is not immune to the chip shortage, and we've seen that play out.
Many expected the tech giant to sell 90 million iPhones in the first quarter. But now analysts from Needham and Refinitiv expect that figure to drop by up to 10 million units. What does this mean for consumers? Daniel Ives is managing director at Wedbush Securities in New York.
Yeah, I think consumers that wait past the first week in December, you won't be seeing any iPhones under the Christmas tree.
Ives expects Apple fans who are planning on getting an iPhone to order by Thanksgiving. But he says Apple is already ahead of the curve, beating chip-making companies like Intel at their own game.
You see Tesla, Google, and others, Samsung following their lead. They're cutting out the middle person, which is the chip makers. And this chip shortage has been, unprecedented. Taking control of having their own chips, especially given this chip shortage, has been a wake-up call to technology and automobile players around the globe.
Apple recently released new MacBook Pro laptops with 2 new M1 chips, which are supposed to have better performance while using less power. Phil Zhou, NTD News, New York.
An app is helping students pick up short part-time work contracts at the touch of a button, part of an effort to fix a staff shortage crisis in the UK's hospitality sector. Here's NTD's Andrew Thomas.
This app is called Stint, and it's helping students in the UK find super short jobs while also helping businesses. University college student Pranav Jain is a Stint user.
To be honest, as being a uni student, especially going into my 3rd year now, there's obviously a lot going on, whether that's academics or more on the leisure side, and just finding work when I want to work is something that a student can only hope for.
Saul Schlagman co-founded the business with his brother in 2018. The app allows students to pick where, when, and for how long they would like to work, while also addressing the service industry's need for more staff.
It was really important to us that any student could use Stint. That then frees up a hospitality business's core team to focus on more of the complex work, which means that at those busy periods, you are correctly staffed, which is relieving pressure on those team members and providing a great experience for your customers, whilst also not doing it at a crazy price for the business.
UK job vacancies rose to almost 1 million from April to July of this year. Some hotels, restaurants, and bars say they have struggled getting enough staff to stay open. Apps like this could be the answer for businesses unwilling to hire part-time staff. But critics say these apps could lead to poor customer service, and questions remain regarding staff training and workers' rights. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And Dutch students are showcasing a solar-powered motorhome they built. They're showing it around Europe to highlight more sustainable modes of transportation. NTD's Christina Kim with details.
Engineering students at the Technical University of Eindhoven in the Netherlands created the solar-powered motorhome. It's named Stella Vita, Latin for star and life, meant to inspire car makers and politicians to accelerate the transition toward green energy.
So we started in Eindhoven on the 19th of September, and we're driving all the way to Tarifa with a lot of different stops. And it is because we really want to inspire the people about a more sustainable future and let them see what is already possible.
Expansive solar panels on the roof and on lateral wings unfold when the vehicle stops, allowing it to travel up to 460 miles on a sunny day. The battery can also power a fridge, coffee maker, and laptop in the two-person cabin. When the sun isn't shining, the car can be charged on an electrical grid. With no power steering or assisted braking, it's tricky to maneuver around tight spaces. But it can cruise comfortably down the highway at 75 miles per hour.
The biggest challenge was the trade-off between aerodynamics and looks. Because of course, if you want to live inside, it needs to be comfortable and it needs to look nice. And of course, you want the vehicle to be very efficient as well.
The group plans to take the car to design shows and exhibitions around Europe. Christina Kim, NTD News.
And that's the latest business updates for today. You can catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. But that's all for NTD Business today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.